talking about just the mental attitude, Kane, I want you to have a listen to the captain after the game.
Extremely disappointing. Yeah, we're hurting as a group, absolutely, and I know our members and fans are hurting, and we're going to do everything to get our season back on track.
So I'm old school on this and I don't care, but they don't look like they're hurting, the players, to me. So there's a perception thing. If you're an 18-year-old Essendon fan, you haven't seen your team win a final, you have started the season in about as bad a shape as you can start, and we're going to get to some of those numbers in a second. You've got players hanging out on the ground laughing with your direct opponents.
Come on.
What do you mean?
The siren's gone.
Does it look like they're hurting?
Over.
Does it look to you, does it look like those players are hurting?
I bet you they are hurting more than anyone. But they're allowed to go speak to people after the siren's finished.
Did you see fans hanging around after the game?
My biggest issue watching Essendon on the weekend was how bad they were in between the sirens, not if they were talking to friends after.
All of that, but don't tell me, Dyson, you're hurting when there's a perception
they're
that you're
mutually
not.
exclusive. Surely you're allowed to, Caro, hurt, but also chat to friends afterwards.
Some people love that vision. Some people's favourite thing, who love the game, love seeing players become human after the game and chatting to their mates. But Kane, I'm sort of sitting on the fence here. I can understand why, as a supporter, you'd watch that and go, look, I don't care if they're old school friends. I just want to see my players hurting after... We heard Matthew Lloyd's damning assessment. I mean, that's as damning as he's been on Essendon for some time, and he's virtually written them off.
We don't want players to become robots.
No, we don't. But we want to show. We want them to show.
Them to hurt.
I think you take the captain at face value. If he says they're hurting, they're hurting. Well, I think we should be as critical of Essendon on the field as we want to be. At 1-4, we deserve to be. But having to go for the players for smiling after a game, I think is a little bit much.
Well, you say between quarters you were worrying about. Is the effort there? Is the attitude there?
We're going to get to that in a second. Firstly, this is Ben Rutten's third year, essentially, because he's been in charge. He's been there for a long time. It's been his game plan for 3 years. This was when he took over as senior coach at the end of 2020 and how he wanted to be seen as a footy club.
The teams that consistently be reliable in their defence gives themselves a really good platform and a really good opportunity to be able to compete at the back end of the year. And quite clearly that's what we're preparing our guys for. The core from me and the core from this footy club is about being a really strong blue-collar footy team.
Well, you're not. That's where you are. You're the worst defensive team in the competition, so I don't want to get lost.
That's damning.
You have to be good at all aspects. And we look at Melbourne, great at stoppage, great at defending the ground. So you put Melbourne, that'd all be in green. Those numbers are all green, and you have to be really good in the contest. The Bombers aren't good at anything at the moment, but they're particularly bad at defending. So at least stand for something.
Yep.
You said you wanted to be a defensive club. You wanted to stand for that, and that's what you're getting. So let's have a look at a couple of clips from yesterday's game. This is 2 clips. So there's a missed tackle there, and this is how much a missed tackle can kill you, because it opens up the whole ground. Now, Young's got the footy here. That's Brayshaw, the hottest midfielder in the game right now, and Draper. You've got to close that gap. Otherwise, you get a walk-in goal under no pressure. Melbourne, Langdon, Gawn, whoever, they close that gap. They don't let you have an unpressured goal running inside 50. And we're going to see Parrish here. So, big midfielder. Look at his effort offensively versus defensively. If he sniffs he can get a possession, he runs harder than any man in the game. But when this footy turns over, look, there's Collie with the footy, there's Parrish. Is the same effort and intensity there when he doesn't have the footy as when he does. So there's a lot of Carlton about this from a couple of seasons ago. There's a lot of Melbourne about it. They're a selfish midfield who want the footy in their hands, and as soon as they don't have it, they're not interested.
Yeah, that vision, I think, says it all from the weekend. Cara, you mentioned something really interesting about there being this perception internally that maybe they were going to take a step back. Can we just have a look at the timeline of the last few years of where this footy club has positioned itself to be? So they go and get Stringer and Smith. Sard's obviously moved on since. Then they get Shield. So you're starting to think that they're building. We know what happened with the coaches changing over. And then, Adrian Dodoro was quite rightly lauded for drafting Cox, Perkins and Reid, who we've seen good things from in patches. Zach Merritt, Cornsey had a big opportunity to go to Carlton, decides to stay on a long-term contract. Great news. And then they go to their first final series campaign in quite some time. I'm just not sure that you can, Damo, ride the highs of building, and then get to 1-4 and start talking about, well, we're actually quite young and maybe we weren't going to take another step forward this way.
In fairness, I reckon they were saying that at the start of the year before the ball had been bounced for round 1.
Yeah, there was a conditioning component to it, Sam, but I think the way it's unfolded, and that board that Kane just presented a moment ago, that's the worry, that they are 18th and 17th on all those key barometers. I think that the spike that they think is going to happen is in 2023, a slight drop this year, but not to that level. And not to the level where Lloydie's now writing them off so soon.
It's an odd thing, Gornsey, to say, oh, we might have a bad year next year, but don't worry, in 2023 we'll be better, particularly when you release 5-year plans, which I think...
Oh, Sam, we know you hate 5 years.
No, this actually doesn't make much sense. So when you release a 5-year plan saying that we want to play finals footy every year, we want to win a flag in the next 5, we want to have as many members as we can, and we want to be one of the best brands in Australian sport. Every single club is trying to do that. You don't need to put it on the agenda and say this is what we're trying to do, because at 1 and 4, that doesn't look good.
I don't mean to be brutal.
They 1 and 4 last year, Sam. They were 2 and 6 last year.
They should be better this year.
Damien, 2 years ago, Gillan McLaughlin saw Xavier Campbell as one of his key heir apparents, and he pushed and pushed to get him to come and work for him at AFL HQ, to run the stadium, I think it was, and to be part of the team. And Xavier Campbell said no. Does a 5-year plan and where they are now, does this further hurt Xavier Campbell's chances of taking on the top job?
I would have thought so. I mean, the 5-year plan is ultimately driven by a board, and it was Paul Brasher who delivered that 5-year plan, and everyone feels the need to do it now because Brendan Gale did it.
Do you like them, Damo?
But Brendan Gale did it, and everyone laughed at him, and he delivered. I mean, it might have been a year or two too late, but he over-delivered.
Yeah, St Kilda had one, and they didn't play finals in the period they were meant to be winning 2 flags.
Gold Coast had one in its second season.
Yeah.
I don't understand, Caro, why...
You've got to aspire. Don't get me wrong, but you don't need to make it public. You don't need to make it a big song and dance.
Richmond
was a big club, and they felt they needed to do it, and everyone lauded them for it.